My name is Carla Espinosa, and I will be your host today in behalf of Hispanotech. Welcome to today's workshop, Building a Lifelong Brand, the first of 3 leadership workshops. So now let me introduce Dana Doswell. Dana is a VP of Business Development for Sundevs, a digital transformation company in Colombia, and the owner of Doswell Inc., as the resource of Latinos as working in North America. She previously started and grew her own digital marketing agency in Toronto, where she helped financial and legal organizations develop integrate digital strategies that range from effective communication to CRM implementations. So during this time, she began learning Spanish as a hobby and spent over 8 months living in different parts of Latin America to better understand the cultural differences between this part of the world. So inspired by what she learned, she started Doswell Inc. to train ambitious Latinos how to grow their careers in North America. So Dana speaks fluent Spanish, loves lifting weights, and is slightly obsessed with Colombia coffee. So please welcome Dana Doswell.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. So I was seeing a ton of people, I think from Mexico, a ton of people from Colombia as well. I'm currently living in Bogota in Colombia. So anybody that is from here, please send me your food recommendations. Things are opening back up again, so I can actually go sit on patios, which is gonna be awesome. So please send recommendations. And as mentioned before, so we have chat because this is a meeting instead of a webinar, which is awesome. So if you have any questions throughout, please post them in the chat or even just comments. And then for certain parts of the workshop, we're going to be doing some exercises. So please feel free to either just comment if you feel comfortable with that. But if you also feel comfortable even putting your video on and your audio on, I always love to hear from you and be able to interact with you. And please always feel free, if you are brave enough to speak, ask me for live feedback. I think that's kind of a cool little reward. If you feel brave enough to speak up in front of everybody, you can ask me for personal feedback on whatever you're putting forward. So without further ado, let's dive in. Today, we're going to be talking about developing a lifelong brand. And for me, this is really the starting point of being able to become the leader that you know that you can be and that you want to be. And this does not mean that you have to become an influencer. So that's really, really important for everybody that's attending. And so obviously I do speak fluent Spanish. So if anybody feels comfortable or more comfortable asking a question in Spanish, also feel free to do that. I can completely understand you. And so what I wanted to show you at first, I'm just going to minimize this, is usually what personal branding looks like. People are like, I am the vice president of business development for Sundevs, and I'm the owner of Doswell Inc. That is my personal brand. I'm awesome. I know about communications. I know about sales. And that's the face that you would typically see. And that can be great, but this really limits you. And if I take a look at this, I'm like, this looks really empty, right? And this does not really express who I am as a person. It doesn't express what I'm passionate about. It doesn't express how I do business. And so it's really important when we start talking about building a lifelong brand versus just a brand where you're posting content, is that you have to feel comfortable and you have to take this brave step at first of being okay with actually being yourself. And especially when we're talking about coming from another country, you've immigrated and you're working in a new culture, it can often feel really uncomfortable. You don't know how much of your old culture to bring into a work environment or to bring into a social environment. You know, what is that right mix between being like Colombian and now being Canadian, or Mexican and Canadian, or Argentinian and Canadian? And so I really encourage everybody here to not look at that as a limiting factor, but actually something that is incredible. And that's also something that's amazing about Canada, is that we're such a multicultural country, and especially in Toronto. And it's amazing that everybody here speaks 2, probably even 3 languages for some of you. That's a massive advantage. And I really want to encourage everybody here to bring that feeling into developing your lifelong brand, because you're always going to be Colombian Canadian. You're always going to be Mexican, Canadian. You're not going to be able to get rid of that. And so I really want you to embrace that. So here's what everybody thinks a personal brand looks like. Now here's what it actually is in practice. So I am somebody, I absolutely love empowering other women. When I was in university, the last 2 years, I spent building 2 societies. One of them was focused on like the legal industry. I actually wanted to be a lawyer for a while, and we mostly worked with female lawyers. And the other one was I developed a Lean In chapter, which was an organization started by Sheryl Sandberg, who is the COO of Facebook. And it was all about empowering women. And I think that's amazing. And that's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And so if we go back here, you don't see that about me. That's not something that is right now part of what my personal brand is, but that's a part of who I am as a human being. If there's organizations, if there's events, if there's things that I can do to support that mission, I'm there and I'm doing it. Something else that you don't see by just my business titles is the fact that I speak Spanish, that I love Latin culture, that I'm currently living in Bogota, that I've lived in Mexico, I've lived in Costa Rica, I've lived in Argentina as well. Other things that you're not going to see with that first slide is that I've traveled to over 17 countries, that I believe communication and truly developing communication as a skill is the absolute best thing that you can do, not only for your career, but also to improve your personal life. I'm also extremely obsessed with Harry Potter. I don't know why, it's just like the most nerdy thing about me ever since I was little. There's 7 books in the Harry Potter series, and I've read the entire series probably between 10 to 12 times now, and can quote many, many movie lines. I will beat anybody at Harry Potter trivia, and I'm super open about that. I think that believing in a magical world or wanting to believe in a magical world is pretty cool, and especially if you can do that when you're an adult, there's not many people that can do that. So that's something that's also really important about who I am as a person. I also love lifting weights. I love health. I love taking care of myself. And I absolutely love Colombian coffee. And so I always like starting this workshop off by showing the difference between this slide, which is the typical, this is my brand, I'm the best at this business thing, and who I actually am as a person, which yes, I am good at those business things, but there's all of these other things that contribute to what my brand is. And they also make me a better business person, because learning Spanish and living in other cultures has made me so much more empathetic. It's made me more open-minded. I really believe it's made me more creative. Sometimes though, my brain gets mixed up when I'm trying to talk in Spanish and I've been talking in English all day and vice versa. And so there's just these funny things that happen now, and I can relate to literally millions of more people. And that's something that's really important to me, and I want to be known for that. And so what we're going to be doing today, and really the purpose of this workshop, is that I want every single person here to be able to leave with the foundation of their lifelong personal brand. And I want to inspire everybody here to own who they are, to be proud of where you came from, to be proud of the passions that you have. Maybe you love knitting, maybe you love drawing, maybe you love painting. Those are all aspects of you that are part of your personal brand. You can be somebody that loves painting and you are like an electrical engineer for a living. You know, you don't have to just be an electrical engineer and be completely boxed in as like the logical person. You can be many different things, and that's going to also help you attract opportunities and people that are going to help support you, not only in your career, but just as an individual throughout your life. And so what we're going to be doing today is, first, we're going to go and we're going to take a look at what is a lifelong brand. Then I'm going to show you the 6 steps to creating your personal brand. So that's going to cover the steps we're going to go over today, as well as the workshop that we're going to have next week. And then we're going to actually go through these steps, and we're going to be doing some live exercises where you can share your feedback and your ideas with me in the chat, as well as out loud. Before diving in, if anybody has any initial questions, right now, patacon is muy rico. I completely agree with that. If anybody has any questions, pop them in the chat right now or say out loud before we dive in. I'll just pause here for a second. Awesome. All right, so let's dive in. So the first thing that I really want to differentiate, or the first lesson that I want to leave you with, is developing a lifelong personal brand versus marketing yourself. And I don't know about you guys, but over the last couple of years, obviously we've seen influencers on Instagram, and now with LinkedIn being the main professional network, we're starting to see all these LinkedIn influencers and people that are just going on and on about you have to post content every single day. You know, it's the only way that you're going to grow your career. You know, working a 9-to-5 job sucks. And if you do that, you're just making money for someone else. And there's kind of this really weird, and I really believe negative narrative around what personal branding is. And a lot of people talk about personal branding, but what they're really talking about is content creation and marketing yourself, which is something very, very different. And content marketing can only ever be based off of your current level of knowledge. And that's why it is not your personal brand. Because right now, maybe you're 30 years old, you're 25 years old, you're 40 years old. What happens in 10 years when you have 10 more years of experience, 10 more years of learning? You're not going to have the same knowledge in your mind. You're actually going to be able to contribute at a different level, hopefully a better level. And so if you're purely just creating your personal brand off of creating content, then you're going to change and your personal brand is going to change, which doesn't really make that much sense. And especially if you're trying to grow your career and you want to do this in a very foundational way where you're incorporating who you are. And so that is why developing a lifelong personal brand is much more about the values that you have and who you are as a person and the way that you want to live your life. Whereas marketing yourself, specifically in the digital age and with the pandemic, it does come down to content creation and really being able to get your name in front of a lot of people. But one major lesson that I want everybody here to leave with is that developing a personal brand and using it to grow your career does not mean that you have to be an influencer. It does not mean that you have to have millions or hundreds of thousands of followers and have a massive online presence. I know for some people that are very introverted, that sounds awful. You know, you might be sitting here and you're just like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine creating, 6 YouTube videos every week and publishing content about my personal life and my thoughts on this. And you don't have to do that in order to develop a personal brand. So that is lesson number 1. What we're going to do is we're going to go deeper and actually take a look at what a lifelong personal brand consists of. And at the end of the day, it is your reputation. It's your reputation. It's how you make other people feel based on the way you influence them. And one other note that I want to make here, there's a big difference between influencing someone and being an influencer. So for example, everybody right now, if you have a boyfriend, a husband, a friend, if you have any person that you interact with on a daily basis, you influence them by the energy that you bring to the conversation, the tone of voice that you use, the words that you choose. And so you're already influencing other people, but being an influencer is somebody that is influencing large populations of people with specific targeted messaging. So just to make sure that that differentiator is there. But if we're always influencing the people that we're interacting with, and the way that we influence people is how we make them feel. And so I just want you to take a pause here for a second and think about maybe it might be kind of hard because we're in the pandemic right now, but let's say in the last year or 2 years or just any experience in your life, can you remember meeting somebody and you were just like, you're kind of an asshole. Like they just did not leave you with a good feeling. Because I've had experiences like that. And I'm just like, I'll meet someone for the first time and I don't like how they made me feel. Maybe they were rude to me. They didn't look at me when they were talking to me. And so type in the chat if you've had an experience like that, or if kind of a memory comes to your mind where you met someone and they just did not leave a good impression on you. Camila says, absolutely. Anybody else? You can just say yes, no, yes, that happened to me recently. Somebody just kind of left you with a bad feeling. Yeah. An old boss. Yep. That's very, very typical. Yep. And so now what I want you to picture is if that person came to you and said, hey, I noticed that your company is hiring and it would be a perfect position for me. Do you think you could help me? An ex-friend. Would you go and help that person? Would you really want to help that person? Like, wow, you did not make me feel good when we met, but now you want me to help you. No, you're not going to. And that is why it's really, really important to remember your reputation is how you make people feel. And how you make people feel dictates how you create your network, the opportunities that you get, how people describe you when you're not in the room. And that's also why we're all in the referral business. Whether or not you're in sales or marketing, getting a job. Often the best jobs and the jobs that are best fit for you come from personal referrals. it could actually be someone creating a job for you because they see a specific problem they have in their company, and maybe they reach out to a friend and they're like, hey, I've been having this problem. And this friend goes, hey, I know Alfonso and he would be perfect. I think you should talk to him. I think he could really help you. And then Alfonso goes to talk to this person, and this person's like, wow, you know what? I'm going to make you an offer. I didn't even officially have a job open, but you can specifically help me solve this problem. And that is what I want everybody here to really think about, is how you can create this reputation by really focusing on how do you want to make people feel when you're with them. And not only, obviously, we want to make people feel good, but this comes down to, and we're going to get into this, is if you're an electrical engineer, if you're a front end developer, if you're a sales rep, if you're an admin assistant, not only is this about making people feel good, but it's also, do you want to inspire confidence when someone thinks of building an application for their startup company? Do you want to be the person that they think of? Yes, you do. And so that is what we're really trying to create with this lifelong personal brand, is not only being known for our technical competence and our competence in our field of study or our field of work, but also the type of person that we are, so that that person that might refer us or wants us to come and work for them is not only going to say, yes, this person is technically competent, but I trust them. I trust them because I know they make me feel good. They make me feel like I'm confident in their work. And we all have those people. Like, I have the CEO of the company that I work in right now. It was actually his personal brand. He publishes nothing online. He's super against it, doesn't even have Instagram. But just by working with him and seeing how he worked, the decisions that he made, how ethical he was, he convinced me to literally leave a company that I started and take a position working at his company when I had decided before that I was never going to go and work for someone again. And so that is the power of developing a lifelong personal brand based on being yourself, making other people feel good, but also showing that you are technically competent in your field of study or in your field of expertise. So how do we actually do this? Let's find out. So these are the 6 steps to building a lifelong brand. This includes, so steps 4 to 6 are what we're going to talk about next week. But the absolute foundation and the aspect that really doesn't change that much over your life are steps 1 to 3. So this is defining your personal values, creating your community criteria, and your community criteria is really your framework or how you're going to make decisions about who do you want to bring into your network. Again, not only in a business context, but also in a personal context. And then lastly, number 3 is naturally how you kick ass. Sorry, I like swearing, but you can also say your natural talents. And so this is also really focusing on naturally, what are you good at? What do you like doing? And how do these 3 things come together to provide you a framework and something that's going to stay quite consistent over the course of your life that you can use to make decisions, that you can use to influence other people, and that you can really use to create this reputation for yourself. And so what you'll notice here, the biggest difference between these 2 is your personal branding foundation that we're going to go over today. These are things that you create that are mostly permanent, or these might be changed. If things change, it's going to happen very, very slowly. And ideally, personal values, if we take enough time to truly think about them, we don't want them to change that much after the time that we're 25 years old. Because when we're 25 years old, our brains have completely finished developing. And as a result, usually our personality is mostly fixed at that point. So if anybody here that's under 25 years old, you kind of have a free pass, but anybody that's 25 years or older, the work that we're going to do today, I really want you to think deeply about it. I want you to take time after the workshop to reflect on it. You don't have to finish it all today, but really think about the type of person you are and who you want to be. And then this is going to be something that can really stick with you and is going to really provide that foundational feeling for you as well. And then next week, we're going to be able to look at, okay, now that we have that foundation of our personal brand, how do we market ourselves? And one thing that I also just want to give you a little sneak peek here is, even though this kind of seems like, okay, maybe we're going to start talking about content creation and that influencer type thing, that can be part of it. But something that I'm also a very firm believer in is that there's a way of doing everything for everyone. And so if you are an extrovert and you're super excited about the thought of publishing content on LinkedIn, on YouTube, great, I'm going to help you with that. But if you're somebody that doesn't want to do that, I'm going to have other strategies and other things that you can try that will still help you to market yourself, but in a much more safer and contained environment where you know all of the people that you're talking to, and you're not going to have a bunch of strangers knowing about your life. So I'm really excited. We're going to dive into steps 1 to 3 today. And this is kind of what I was talking about before, but most personal branding is only taught as steps 4 to 6. And what this creates is it creates actually a feeling of being trapped. And I experienced this when I first started trying to get into marketing and building a personal brand for myself. And usually this gives you short-term results, but it's the same thing. If you're someone that's dedicated to personal and professional development and you spend 3 to 6 months creating content, and that's what happened to me, I improved so much at what I was doing in business, my sales ability. I started learning Spanish. I could now produce content in Spanish. And so all of my content started to radically shift, and it was very different. And then I started to feel trapped, like, oh, should I post content in Spanish? Is that weird? Are people going to think that that's weird? And so you start to get into this endless cycle of just trying to produce content, and you'd have that trap feeling, and it really just brings you short-term results. And I've experienced both, where I posted a lot of content and I posted no content at all. But because I spent the time developing my personal brand, I've been able to grow my old business and the business that I'm in now at the same level when I've been producing content or not. So really, again, just leaving you with that, you do not need to be in an endless cycle of producing content. Is much more about having this framework of who you want to interact with and what's important to you. And so today we're going to go through steps 1 to 3. And so step number 1 is developing our personal values. And essentially what this does is it gives us a framework or a way of saying yes or no to opportunities, again, both personally and professionally in our lives. And this is also a skill. You know, making this list and developing these personal values is the easy part. And so the part that's much more difficult and is going to be something you're going to be doing for the rest of your lives, and I can't necessarily teach in a 1-hour workshop, is actually sticking to those values. So if you create these values and then maybe a client comes to you and they want to work with you and you start talking to them and you're like, oh, like the money would be great, but I just don't have this feeling that they're going to be a good client. Or, I already know that they're going to be extremely demanding, and I don't want that type of client. And so maybe the old you would have said yes just to bring the money in, but the new you might look at it and say, you know what, that's actually not aligned with the type of people that I want to surround myself with, I don't want that opportunity. And so by saying no, you're making room to bring a new client in that is going to be someone that's much better fit for you. So that is the purpose of developing our personal our personal values. And so there's just 2 short steps that we're going to do, and we're going to actually take a pause here. I'm going to show you my personal values and how I kind of score them. And then we're going to take a couple minutes. I want you guys to brainstorm. And so the first thing that you're going to do is list 10 values that deeply resonate with you. And then you're going to whittle this list down to 3 to 5 core values, or shrink the list down to 3 to 5 core values. So here's how you can actually score the different values that you potentially want to choose as your last 3 to 5. So I'm really into energy management, and I've really, over the last couple of years, I've really realized that, again, if I work with a bad client that's really annoying, it completely takes all of my energy. And then I have no energy to do the things I want to do, and I don't even want to do them. And so when I started thinking about developing personal values, I was like, okay, how do I score this? How do I measure this? And so for me, I thought about it in context of energy. And so these are the types of energy that I think of. You can call them whatever you want, but you're going to have good energy, bad energy, neutral energy, calm energy, high frequency energy, and hell yeah energy. And so to just briefly go through and describe how these make you feel, good energy has that positive feeling to it. So it might be like you're making plans to go on a picnic with your friends on Saturday, and you get that like good energy, you're excited, like you get that smile that comes to your face. That's good energy. Bad energy, pretty self-explanatory. Maybe you get some anxiety in your stomach, you kind of feel a heaviness on your body, and you just have that feeling of like, do I have to do this? And you're just, ugh. So that's bad energy. Neutral energy is, it doesn't really do anything for you. So maybe it's like, okay, I know I have to wash the dishes. There's like 3 dishes. It's going to take me 2 seconds. Like you're not necessarily have a bad energy because it's like 3 dishes and you have to wash them, but it's not good energy because you don't really want to wash the dishes. So something super neutral. And then calm energy, which I think is very important. This might be something that you get, like if anybody here meditates, so the energy you have while you're meditating or afterwards, or maybe the energy that you have, you know, at the end of the day, you finish work, maybe you go for a short walk, and it's almost like neutral energy, but there's a little bit more of this feeling of just peace associated with it. And then high frequency energy is kind of similar to good energy, but I think of it as being in more of a creative state. So maybe you feel inspired. It's not only excited, but you feel very inspired to take action, to do something and to move forward. And then hell yeah energy. I'm in sales. And so something that I would really associate this with is closing a deal. Like when I see the contract signed and, you know, like I know that I just sold something for like $100,000, I'm like, hell yeah. I would actually use a different word than hell, but I would say like hell yeah. So again, it has kind of this good energy feeling to it, but there's more of like a really powerful surge. And so those are my brief definitions of the different types of energy and how I would approach them and how they feel for me. And Alfonso asked, do personal values based on personal feelings? Absolutely. And so that's what we're going to get into is this is how I chose my top 5 personal values. And you can see here the type of energy that I associate with them. And so that's why it's really important to take some time and think about, you can even make a list that's bigger than 10 if you want to, but start by trying to make a list of 10 values that are really important to you. And so for me, when I went through this exercise, I had a lot that were really similar to this, but for me, leadership, connection, growth, health, and inner harmony, these are 5 values that are extremely important to me, both in the business context, as well as in my personal life. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a couple of minutes, and I want everybody to first make their list of 10 values that deeply resonate with you, and then use these types of energy if you want to, or your own kind of scoring framework if you have something like that, to come up with your end list of 3 to 5 values. Anybody have their first couple of values brainstormed or any ideas? Accountability, creativity, self-determination, family, connection, honesty, integrity, trust. I love all those. Avnish, I can't really come up with 10 as I generally relate to each other. What do you mean? Like, is it, do you feel like all of yours are really similar?
Like, yeah, kind of like humanity, kindness, compassion. For me, they kind of get down to one single bucket of humanity. And
Okay.
for like achievement, so that would be like a person's boldness. So not boldness, but like knowledge. And so I would kind of correlate them to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, so correlating a lot of them, so trying to get 10 out of it, but it's just like they're getting on. So even justice and honesty, it's just correlating them each other. So just gone down as integrity and loyalty. So clubbing them together. That's
yeah. So what I would suggest in that sense is try and expand your thought of thinking. Think of yourself in different situations in your life. So for example, like let's say you're doing exercise, right? Like, okay, maybe that's a part of your life that's really important to you. And so like, what's like a value that you would apply to like that part of your life? Humanity doesn't really make sense potentially, but maybe it would more be like health or wellness or connection with your body or something like that. So try and picture yourself in kind of different situations in your life, and then think about how you want to exist in those moments and use that.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
No problem. Oh my gosh, I love all of these. Balance. I really like that one. I saw someone else had communication, fairness, recognition. These are all amazing. And I'm just curious, like if anybody wants to share, like, how good does this feel to think about what is important to you and what you value? Like, don't you have like a good feeling making this list, and you're kind of like inspired? You're like, yeah, like I do want this to be important to me. Is anybody feeling that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes, exactly. And so this is also like really what I I want you to feel inspired, not limited by personal branding, is like really just think of the amazing life that you want to have and the person that you are going to be that's living that life. And that's really what your personal brand is. Awesome. Okay, I love this. So I know we have like about 22 minutes left and I want to keep going. So I think that this is amazing. And just a reminder to make sure you fill out the survey for Hispanotech, because I created another little a summary document that has these steps in it. So as long as you fill out the survey, you'll get the summary document and then you'll have the formula essentially you can follow on your own time, but definitely keep going with this. Another tip is if you have a partner or even your family, do some brainstorming with them. Like you could even turn it into kind of like a fun family activity. And it's always interesting to ask other people, like, what do you think I value? Because sometimes other people have that perspective of you that you don't have. So definitely make a note to ask some people in your life. Awesome. Really, really great work, everybody. I love seeing all of those lists. Yes. All right. So step number 2, which is also really interesting and probably something that none of us have ever done before. So when we're also thinking about building our personal brand, but also how we want our careers to progress, there's the first person that is the most important in that scenario is you. And the second is all of the people that you interact with on a regular basis. So let's just look at 2 quick examples. Maybe you're an entrepreneur or you own your own company. And so you're going to be interacting a lot with your team, your employees, and then clients and partners that you have. Now, if you're somebody that's working in a larger organization that is not client facing or not customer facing, then you're mostly going to be interacting with people that are, just internal to your company and maybe some partners, but everybody is also going to be interacting with their friends, their family, their friends of their friends. And so what we want to do here is we want to get intentional with who do we actually want to interact with on a daily basis? Because if we remember, again, we go back to that little exercise we did at the beginning. I don't want to be interacting with a lot of people that make me feel bad about themselves, that make me feel bad about myself. I don't care if they're paying me a lot of money. I've done that. I have worked with somebody, and I remember one of my first clients at the marketing agency that I had, it was like a cold call that I did. Like I convinced this guy to like give us a chance and started working with them. And it was going to be like $30,000 a month. And I was like, holy crap, like this is amazing. And after the first month, I was just like, literally nothing is worth this. And they were just brutal to work with. And I stopped working with them. And it was such a relief. And so that was a big lesson for me, is that money does not always equal happiness. And we really need to make sure that we apply that when we're thinking about the people that we want to build in our networks. And the other aspect of this is that when we curate and we intentionally befriend, we intentionally surround ourselves with the right people, they want to help us. So we're no longer creating transactional relationships. We're creating deep relationships where if I say, hey, to my network, I'm looking for a new job, or, I got let go, I'm looking for a job here. Now we're surrounded by people that truly want to help us and actually know and can spot opportunities that are good for us, not just, a LinkedIn connection that's just like connect with every single person because that's what LinkedIn is about. That's not what we want to do. And so what you're going to do, you're going to actually create a list of the qualities that you're looking for friends and colleagues, the qualities you are not looking for, and then the qualities that you need to embody in order to attract the people you want. Something that's also interesting that happened to me when I first did this exercise was I realized that there were a couple of people in my life that had a lot of the qualities that I was not looking for, which was a little painful at first, but it really made me aware of like, wow, I'm spending my time with people that don't make me feel really good about myself. And so then I was able to say, okay, like these are the kind of people that I want to start to interact with more. And so this is not everything, but this was kind of like my notes from the initial exercise that I did. So a couple of qualities that I'm looking for, and I'll tell you a couple of things that are really, really important to me, which might seem weird to some people, are someone that really values sleep. This might seem really weird, but I have been on a journey the last couple of years of really learning about health and like true health, like what are our bodies actually meant to do? What are our bodies actually meant to experience on a day-to-day basis? And anybody that has done that type of research or is interested in that has come to the conclusion that sleeping is one of the most critical health pillars that you can have in your life. Like just punto, like end. And so that's really interesting for me, is if I can find somebody that really values that, like I know that you've like done the same research as me and that you're that kind of person. So that's number one. Somebody else that's ambitious with their career. I'm extremely ambitious. I truly want to change the world. I believe that I'm already changing the world, and I'm surrounding myself with other people that have that mindset too. And then something else that's really important is that somebody that travels a lot and really values learning about other cultures. Qualities that I'm not looking for, obviously people that don't exercise, people that only work because of money, people that don't commit to things, that really, really bothers me. And then sometimes this attitude of people just like, I'm too cool to care, like, you know, whatever, like, no, like caring is cool. Like being that person that cares is awesome. And then some qualities that I need to embody, and also some areas that I really wanted to work on in myself to attract and also deserve this quality of person that I wanted to be friends with and that I wanted to work with, was working on my vulnerability, being financially responsible. When I started making a lot more money, I was like, hell yeah, I'm going shopping. I'm doing this. I'm going to like go to New York twice this year and all this stuff. And I was like, then after I'm like, oh, okay, I have no money anymore. And so being able to be truly honest with myself, which can feel, you know, like your face can get hot and you can feel a little bit of shame around that. But actually it's a very brave thing to be able to make this list and then actually work on these things so that you can start building this network around you with people that have these qualities. And so what we're going to do again, just for a couple minutes right now, is I want everybody to brainstorm 2 things for each column. Feel free to share them if you feel comfortable. If you don't, I know this one can be a little more personal in some ways. So feel free to share. But so it's 6:14 my time. I know it's 7:14 your time, or 6:15. So at like 6:18 my time, I'm gonna ask a couple people to share, but also feel free to share over the next couple of minutes as you're brainstorming. So let's see what you guys come up with. And if anybody is interested in this, there's a great book, Why We Sleep. I can't remember the author. Super interesting. The guy has spent his entire life studying sleep, and I really encourage you to read it. Okay, Juan says, likes to talk about weird things. Uparts, I don't know what that is. Aliens, yes. Super cool. That's awesome. Alfonso, for people who value loyalty and have a great sense of humor. Yep, I love that. Out of place artifacts. Ah. Matthew Walker. Thank you, Lucia. Yes, great book. Great book. Anybody else feel comfortable sharing like maybe a weird quality they're looking for in someone? Like, I'm so curious about this, like all the things that make us different. Victor, qualities you're looking for: optimism, reliable. I love that. Qualities not looking for: no commitment, complaining all the time. Qualities you need to embody: calmness and empathy. Yes. Yes, third column does require very deep introspection. Yeah. Camila, I'm looking for friends, but not too clingy. Okay, so maybe one of the qualities you really value might be independence. That's something that I also really value, as well as independence in myself and other people. Yeah, I know. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get annoyed if I feel like somebody like can't do things by themselves. I'm just like, you can do it. It's okay. Interested in financial independence. Yes, I love that. Qualities looking for: open-minded, friendship, positive. Qualities need to embody: not being too logical. So in general, one of the things I would really encourage everybody to look into is meditation. Meditation is amazing for connecting with logic, but also creativity. And it really helps us see reality how it is versus how we want it to be. And this can help us be in that third column and be introspective with ourselves. Juliana says, looking for people with a good energy. Yes, so important. Like, again, you know, those people that just take your energy away. Yes, headspace is great. That's awesome. Okay, so we're coming up on 6:18. So everybody was sharing some really amazing things here. Again, really encourage you to take this to heart and spend, you know, like have a big cup of coffee on Saturday morning and sit down, put some cool music on, be by yourself, and like really get into some of these exercises, and give yourself that space to really brainstorm and think. Awesome. All right. So step number 3 is how you naturally kick ass, or the politer version is your natural talent. And one of the things I find so interesting is there's a lot of people online that are like, you know, find the things that you're bad at and spend all of your time improving them. And I think that is so ridiculous. Like, okay, obviously, you know, maybe improve some things, but the fact that we're all born and we have natural talents, that is who we naturally are. Why would we not embrace that and be the best we can possibly be at public speaking, at engineering, at graphic design? Like, that makes no sense to me. So my advice is the complete opposite to that. Anything that you are naturally good at and that you enjoy doing, go all in on that. Be the absolute best that you can be, because obviously that is what you are meant to do. And so that's what we're going to focus on. Again, this is going to be an exercise where you're creating 3 columns: things that you're good at, things that you enjoy doing, and things that you can make money at. This is really similar to an exercise called the Ikigai. It's a Japanese exercise. There's 4 questions. I can't remember the 4th one, but it's essentially, the Ikigai is like helping you find out what your purpose in life is. And so for the purposes of personal branding, I find that these 3 questions are enough. And so again, I'll show you really briefly. These are not all of mine, but this is some of the top ones that I did when I was doing this exercise. And so things that I'm good at: public speaking, like what I'm doing right now. I'm one of those weird people. When I was 14 years old, I spoke in front of thousands of people, and I was just like, whoo, I can do this. And I was like a little nervous, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't do this, I don't want to. And so public speaking, doing workshops and interacting with people is just in my DNA. It's who I am, and I'm really good at doing it. Writing, also something I really enjoy doing. And actually, fun fact, if anybody wants to sign up for it, next week, I'm starting a bi-weekly newsletter called Life, Leadership, and Business with Dana. So a lot of these lessons that I'm teaching today, I'm going to be writing more long form, almost like a blog, but it's going to be in an email format. And I'm going to be sending that out every 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. And you can follow me on Instagram so that you can get updated when I'm releasing that. Other things that I'm good at is connecting one-on-one with people, empathizing. I'm good at selling. I'm good at storytelling. I'm good at learning. Thank you, Camila. And I'll quickly, this is going to be at the end, but this is my personal Instagram. If anybody wants to follow me, I post all my updates there. And then things that I like doing: reading. Again, Harry Potter, big fan. Love reading a lot of other books as well. I also really love public speaking. I love helping other people. I love writing. I love working out, cooking, things that I currently make money at or could make money at. Public speaking, selling, business strategy, one-on-one coaching, and writing. And so what you can see here is I highlighted in this kind of like turquoisey blue color all of the things that pretty much appeared in all 3 columns. And so this is why I want you guys to really spend a lot of time, like make these lists as long as possible, and then take a highlighter, like get one of these and just start highlighting all of the things that are really similar across these 3 columns. And what this is again going to help you do is to have kind of a blueprint or a framework that you can use for saying yes or no to some situations, and actually A, being good at it, B, liking it, and C, making money at it if that's something that's important to you. So again, we just have a couple minutes left. So let's just take 2 quick minutes here. If everybody can brainstorm at least 2 things for each column, let's give it a go. And as always, feel free to share in the chat. I'm really curious. So try and go for two things for each column if you can. Juan, good at creativity and improvising, things that you like: design thinking, drawing, things you make money at, design. I think that's really, really interesting. And design thinking doesn't only apply to like actually creating products. I think it applies to just life in general. So super cool. And you guys are gonna see how this all ties in next week when we start talking about marketing ourselves. Victor, good at abstract reasoning and solving complex problems. You enjoy learning and helping people out, make money at technology and finance. I think that's interesting. I don't know what you do, but just by reading this list, I'm like, finance, technology, abstract reasoning is like fintech, like complex financial technology, like that kind of thing is what I think about you. Erica, good at learning, organizing, events, projects. That's awesome. Alfonso, enjoy doing counseling, coaching, cooking, singing and playing guitar, learning other languages. Erica, you enjoy learning, organizing, and baking. That's so interesting. Like if you guys just take a look at that, like with Erica, like she really likes organizing and learning. And then one of the things that she really likes doing is baking, which I think is really cool. Like that's such an organizational sort of like experience. Like I think that's very interesting. And it's the same kind of thing as a project. Like you take all of these things and put them together to create a final product. Alfonso, I make money at selling and sales. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna keep going because we just have a couple of minutes left. Wilvin, I enjoy events like this. Hell yeah, you do. That's awesome. Okay, so again, get that cup of coffee, give yourself a couple of hours this weekend to go through these things. You know, also, especially for this column, things that you're good at, ask your friends and family, because naturally as humans, it's the same thing when we're writing our resumes, when we're writing our cover letters, we're like, immediately we're like, oh my God, I've never done anything cool in my life. I suck at everything. And then you're like talking to your best friend and you're like, yeah, you know, like you're the most amazing person. You have all these awards and whatever. And so it's the same thing when you start brainstorming things that you're good at. So ask your mom if you can. Your mom is like going to always tell you that you're amazing. So ask your mom, ask your dad, your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, your best friend, people you work with if you have a close relationship, and really build out all of these lists and then take the time to go through and highlight them and start to see those patterns and those things that connect. So now by doing all of these exercises, you're going to now have the foundation of your lifelong personal brand. And I just also like to include this last little slide is how does this actually work together? So that value exercise that we did at the beginning is your filter for how you make decisions personally and professionally. Are your choices and the opportunities you are being presented with, do they fill you with that energy that you have associated with each of your 3 to 5 core values? And if they don't, then you know to say no, thank you, but no thank you. Your community criteria. This gives you the framework or the criteria to be able to say yes or no, or intentionally create relationships with people where it's not just going to be a surface level relationship, but these are going to be people that can truly add value to your life. You can add value to theirs, and they're going to help you not only grow your career, but also they're going to help you grow personally. And then lastly is your natural talent. And so this is, I think, is really interesting because when we start to embrace our natural talents, then we start to see, wow, there's so many things that I do because other people told me that I should do it. You know, maybe you're a good public speaker. And so everybody used to always tell me, you're going to be a great lawyer. You should be a lawyer. You should be a lawyer. And I listened to people for so long. I started this law society when I was in university. And then finally, I just realized I'm just like, I actually hate this. Like the only part that I like is if I could be a litigator 24/7, but that's just not it. Like so much of being a lawyer is like the research and the paperwork. And that's so not me. And so I was able to just say, no, that's not what I want to do. And so this gives you a secondary filter to be able to say yes or no to opportunities, and also to really tap into your potential, again, both personally and professionally, of what actually are you good at, what can you make money at, and what makes you feel good. It's really important to have all 3 of those things. And so lastly, I also just wanted to announce, I also have a community called I Level Up that's specifically for ambitious Latinos that are growing their careers in North America. And I'm specifically dedicated to helping all of you obtain leadership positions. So that's why the word ambitious here is really important. And you can see with like my personal values that's something that is really important to me. And I just decided to make the community free. Before that, it was actually a paid monthly subscription, but I want to make sure that everybody has access to it. And so on a monthly basis, I offer communication workshops like this. I work with an English professor who's from Mexico, who's also an international lawyer, which is really cool. So he does monthly advanced English lessons as well. We do group meditations. In July, we have a challenge coming up to win $500 and a couple of personal coaching sessions. And then any other future courses that I create, any I Level Up members will get early access and special pricing. So I think Deanna, who is my marketing manager, is here. She's going to just post in the chat. There's a quick application form. It just takes about 3 minutes to just make sure that you're somebody that's going to get value from the community and that you can bring value. So please apply if you think that this would be interesting for you. Would love to have you there. And I believe that is it.
Thank you, Dana. That was an amazing workshop with a lot of insightful information on what really is a personal brand, right? It's not just about posting things in social media. It's about like knowing yourself and who do you want to interact with and what the things that matter to you, right? A lot of introspection. So looking forward to the next workshops. Thank you very much. So now we would like to invite you to our next online events. So the next leadership workshop is on Tuesday. Hope you already sign up as how to market yourself in your industry. Also, you can join the mentorship program. And well, you can register now to be a mentor or a mentee. It starts on August 11. Okay, so last but not least, cheers to our volunteers that make this event possible. Thank you very much for all your hard work. So if you would like to volunteer with Hispanotech, please send us an email. So we have 2 emails there that you can tell us that you want to volunteer. And okay, you can learn more if you'd like to learn more about Hispanotech. Follow us in social media, visit our website, and become a member. So thank you very much, and hope you can see you next event.